Well, because I want to offer this as a free gift. And if you open that link, just click on it.
Okay.
You'll see what it is and you'll know what I'm talking about. And we may only go to 2 of these points, the first 2 or something, or 3, I don't know. But I
Okay.
mean, I'll do whatever you guide me to. Um, but as I listened to those wonderful women, I'm like, all this knowledge, it's just like, what would I want my older self to tell a young person or my young self? And this is what I came up with.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Let me, something is very different on my computer. This is a different computer, different
Oh,
setup, and apparently it's recording things in different ways. So,
oh yeah, we are recording.
yeah, well, I edited out, so, don't,
Yeah, no, that's fine. But just so you know,
yeah, yeah. And I'm just trying to, my computer is slow, not responding. Come on.
that's
Oh,
the
all right,
problem.
great. Be the cheerleader. 10 things I wish somebody had told my younger self. I love it. I love it. Oh, that's
Wow.
wonderful.
Oh, good.
Wonderful.
Okay.
So I will put that in. I'll download that so that we can.
Or that link, and then you could put it in your show notes, and then they can actually take a copy. The other thing I would like to just, what's the word? Start with or commemorate is Ruth Bader Ginsburg's passing. And oh, she was just so big, in human rights and women's rights. And I just feel like I'd like to acknowledge her. I guess that would be the word. And I have a quote that her mother gave her about emotions. And I thought it would be perfect for me if that's kind of my thing, so.
I love it. So what I'll preface is that I don't know exactly when I'm going to be able to get this up, but with the way things are going at the moment, my good computer has run out of space, and I've tried and tried and tried to.
It screws it all up when that happens.
Well, it totally freezes everything. So
yeah.
I said, okay, I'm going to try and get this to work. And it was working this morning. And I said, yes. And then I came up, I said, I'm going to recharge it. And I came up and I turned it on and nothing happened. And all I can figure is it is the space. But in any case,
does this cause you anxiety?
You know what? It could.
Oh, it does me terribly.
The stress lately here, so I am not anxious at all. This just to me lends more to our conversation, our story.
It does.
And I
real.
Yeah. So, do we get anxious? And I found that what is the sense of anxiety? What is the sense of creating? Because the more anxiety we have, the more tension we have, the more we put out in the world, and we're attracting more of that back to us.
And you know what I say to that? If you said that, it's not effective. It's not efficient at all. And that's kind of what her mother's quote is about.
Oh, wonderful. So I guess what I would do is just say at the time, make a note at the time of this recording, Ruth Bader Ginsburg just passed away, and we are still all in a state of shock.
Yeah. Oh, I cried. And I didn't know she meant that much to me. Oh,
I mean, she tried. God
she did.
She tried. And no matter what you think, she had conviction, and yet she was able to recognize the good in others no matter what. And the other people were also able to
that's a good one.
Let the political, never discuss politics or religion. Well, guess what? I'm doing it. I'm doing it big time here. And
just as a recognition. We don't have to be polarized at all about it. It's just an icon, a woman icon, and there's not a lot of them.
She accomplished so much. She broke through a lot of barriers, and she knew how to do it. And I love that. I love that. So, okay. Well, thank you. I think that's wonderful. Now, let me ask you, do you have a sign-up sheet, or are you just giving this away?
Oh, I just give it away.
Okay.
I have on my website another, freebie I'll have that you can put their email in, and I'll kind of show it. It's really 3 secrets that really move you out of fear, a feeling stuck. So that's on my website, and I'll give that. But no, I just made it. I just did it.
Well, it struck you, and you're sharing, and that's what this is all about. The Awesome Life is sharing how to create that in whatever ways. And thank you for saying all that about our guests, because you are right there. You are amazing. And that's why I like to have the conversation before we actually have our podcast, because we do need to know who we're speaking to so we can have the right people. And the thing about Awesome Life is it is for women in transition. And I believe that we're all in transition because we're all growing, and we're finding new ways, and we're discovering things that we may or may not like to continue living with, but we don't know how to change. So having the guests that I have, we're able to address some of that fear, some of the anxiety, some of the challenges that people have, plus solutions. I'm a solution-based person.
Me too.
And that's why you're here, because we are both thinking along the same lines. We need to have solutions, not just complaints. And you need to look inside for the solution that's right for you, because what's right for you may not be right for me, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Joanne. This is exciting. And I am, let me see. I'm just going to get right to it, if that's okay.
Sure.
Super duper. Hey, welcome back to Awesome Life Podcast. I'm here today with the amazing Joanne Williams. I am so thrilled to be here with her. She is a stress management expert. And as with all of my guests, I speak to them before we actually have our podcast recordings and get to know them a little bit, make sure that they are the right fit for the Awesome Life, and creating that joy, that energy, that money, which all comes to the freedom of living an awesome life. And I thought Joanne is ideal, not only because she's a great person, a wonderful podcast guest, and a lot of fun, which I like. Fun is number one, but also because she has wonderful tips and ideas and thought processes to help create less stress, less anxiety. As we were talking earlier, I was running into some issues along the way trying to get this podcast up. But we surmounted it. Everybody is calm. Everyone is enjoying, and I'm ready. Joanne. And also a big thing about Joanne, she used to live in Maine. She's married to a Mainer. I live in Maine. I'm not a Mainer. I'm a Flatlander, and I'm proud of it. But I've lived in Maine for, 45 years. So 47 years now. Whew, golly, where did that go? Anyway, it's a great place. And I knew I had to meet her when she said, formerly of Maine, now of Florida. I love it. Love it. So, Joanne, tell us, how did you get into stress management?
Well, my formative years were in Maine, but I actually was born in Oklahoma. And at about 12 years old, they picked us all up, moved family of 6 to Maine, Portland, Maine. And that was a kind of big transition at 14. And, I had all my friends there. I was established. We were going to state for a softball team and moved. And I'll tell you, it upset my life completely. And I had a Southern accent. And all the kids would just say, "Will you just talk, Joanne?" And here they in Maine, and Mainers don't have any accent. So
An accent anyway.
yeah, no. So there was a lot of loss of confidence, loss of who I was, loss of what I knew, and building all new. And the rest of my family was going through it as well. So there wasn't a lot of support. And, I ended up marrying my high school sweetheart, who was alcoholic, but had the most wonderful family you can ever imagine. We were on Long Island, Maine. So we were about 45 minutes outside of Portland. Beautiful island. Wonderful. Lived there for almost 20 years.
Wow.
And, but I could not get into the, I'll call it alcoholic lifestyle. That just didn't help me grow emotionally. And so I sought counseling. And so I ended up divorcing, but had 2 children, and we moved off. And then I did remarry my current husband, Gary, for been 30 years now. But through that counseling process, I knew that's what I wanted to do. And so I went back and I got my master's degree when my kids were in their teenage years to Boston University, all the way. So 2 hours I had to drive, from Portland. And it just really changed my whole outlook, my whole way I look at life. It did teach me solutions. It did teach me what I wanted to focus on for the rest of my life. And I really worked in so many different ways, parts in schools and in nursing homes and hospitals and all kinds of experience. And my private practice really I had it the whole time. So I've been a, licensed clinical social worker for going almost 30 years now. Yeah. But I've ended up being, for the last 7 years, my specialty has been an emotional support animal certification as one of the biggest, easiest ways ever to lower stress and anxiety is get an animal.
Nice. Now, do you find that there is one animal more suitable than another?
It goes about there's 2 laws that cover emotional support animals, and both of them are about looking at the person and how the animal helps the person with a daily functioning. If it helps them more with sleep or concentration or being able to get out more, that's the animal. And then, they also have to have a psychological diagnosis that we diagnose. But that's, really my current business that I do. But, it's just my current clients that I counsel, most of them don't want to leave their homes. It's a pretty stuck, traumatized group that they have found animals, are one of their go-tos. And I find it interesting with COVID-19 that the animal shelters are empty. So I think beyond even, my understanding, people know their animals help them.
They absolutely do. And that is part of your Anxiety Simplified. Simply have, if you're watching this on YouTube, which I hope you will, you can see her books behind her. And
that's my podcast, Anxiety Simplified, and I am on YouTube too. Anxiety Simplified Podcast is the name of that channel. Okay. But yeah, so I do a podcast about those solutions, and animals are one of them.
And this is what Awesome Life is all about: finding a solution, finding ways. So having an animal is a huge responsibility and a huge expense. And I apologize for shaking up and down here. I'm not using my usual computer and and camera here, so it's kind of moving up and down. It has a loose camera, but I apologize. But you'll forgive me because, hey, this is all supposed to be fun. You know, you can, bobbleheads, just imagine the bobbleheads. Anyway, we're all good. The good news is that Joanne is steady, right on. She knows what she's talking about. So we were talking a little bit earlier about the situation that we're in right now, and Joanne had mentioned that she wanted to share. Was it a quote?
Mm-hmm.
At the time of this recording, Ruth Bader Ginsburg has just passed and has sent a wash of loss around the country, and anxiety about our future, and anxiety about a little bit of stress of what's going to happen. So please share with us, Joanne.
You know, I found, you know, RBG, as they call, you know, the icon, one of the women icon on the Supreme Court. There was a documentary, there was a movie just made a couple of years ago. There's so much around her. And it's just amazing to me how much people have taken to her. And I think it's her spirit, you know, her spirit of helping and loving and just being her authentic self in the world. And so people ask her in interviews, you know, how did you get this way? Her mother died of cancer the day before she graduated high school. So she didn't have a mother around a long time, but one of the quotes that her mother gave her, I want to just kind of read here. But her mother told her about emotions and being a woman. And she said, don't give way to emotions that zap your energy, like anger. Take a deep breath and speak calmly and deeply deliberate. And so she understood, you know, that, and that's really one of my messages and missions too, is that we need to understand how to use emotions to our advantage. And that's what I think she did, because she was known to just be a quiet speaker, but she had power, and her intention with those, whatever she said, really pierced through.
Indeed, people listened when she spoke. She didn't speak idly. It goes back to my mantra of say what you mean and mean what you say. So be careful how you say things, what you say, and be honest with yourself. And I love that. I love that. Don't give way to your emotions. Emotions are wonderful, but sometimes they can become very stressful, like anger. And let me ask you, I have been advised, and I found in myself that often this is the case, but I'm not an expert like you are. I've not been in the counseling world for over 30 years, but when I think about anger, I think about it being inside of us rather than outside, angry at somebody, but more of what that person might have triggered that we don't like inside of us. What do you think?
That's funny you asked that one. You know, I do a Saturday at 1 Eastern time live Facebook, and that's what I did it on the last Saturday was on anger. And I look at all emotions as having a message or a piece of information for us. And anger is to say no. It's a boundary. You know, somebody has crossed a boundary, and it's to say, And a lot of times it starts with just a little twinkle of hurt, but that doesn't get heard or dealt with. So then it kind of moves up to, okay, I got to stand up for myself now because somebody has crossed that boundary. And I think what you're asking, or what I hear, more your question is, a lot of times I think people turn it inward and don't say anything, or because they don't know what to say without hurting somebody's feelings or getting rageful. That's not anger. Rage is not anger. Abuse is not anger. Anger is to say, and the example at work that I used on Saturday was, like, if somebody just took the stapler off your desk at work, or especially the second time, you go, no, hey, or bring it back before I need to use it, please. That's a boundary. And that's really all anger really needs to be, is saying what that's not okay, or please do it this way. And what I also kind of said is, sometimes when people do not respect your boundaries, when people do not hear you, when maybe you're not speaking in a real tone or a real intention of, please don't do that again, they disrespect you. And that's where, that might rise again to another level of anger or into rage. But that person that's not being respectful or not listening, it is about them and their disrespectfulness maybe to the world, and you're just part of their, I don't really care what you think kind of thing. And I say, get away from them, lock your things away, because there's some things we can do something about, and there's some things we can't. And getting angry, just like in RBG's mother told her, it's not helpful, it's not useful, it's not effective to just throw things, because everybody could be listening to this, in the office. And who do they look at? They look at the person who's being that really rageful, and you sound like what's wrong with that person? Instead of, when you use your intention and put it out there, and that was the other thing I talked about on Saturday, use your intention with this. Please don't. A good old stop sign of a hand works really well with intent. Don't. Please don't do that again. And a lot of times that is enough to go, oh, I guess that person means it. And because sometimes, would you mind? I'm not really, please, don't. They're like, I can walk all over this person. So I think, one of these things is stand up for yourself. But you've got to do it in a voice that's heard.
That makes good kind of sense. And I guess when I think about anger and being angry towards somebody and looking inside, that is, why are you being angry towards somebody that took that stapler off your desk? You're really angry at yourself because you didn't say stop. So let's reach those boundaries. Let's say stop. We don't need the anger, because it really does affect us physically. It creates dis-ease. And
I believe it goes into depression as well, because that same thing, when somebody is not acknowledging their role, in this interaction, and then start to point the finger at that person did it, they're the reason they took that, and you're right, because then that starts to just get higher and higher in yourself, but the whole time they're not looking in and seeing that they have a part in it. And the thing that that really kind of upsets me, Karen, is we don't get trained in this. I don't know where people learn about how to manage emotions, or that, truly half of our brain is emotional. The other side is the logic. And so we have to learn skills. And, that's why I do call them coping skills. They have to be learned. But where do you learn them? And that's why I hope people do call for help of a counselor, or to learn techniques, because I don't think they're, I don't know where they're taught, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like the techniques are available, and it isn't just talk therapy. There are
Mm-mm.
some faster, easier, more effective ways.
Yes,
So you have simplified that anxiety, um, and you share those ways on your podcast. But
I
would
do.
you share with our listeners today some of the ways? We have the animals.
Yeah. Well, actually, and I think you also do EFT,
Yeah.
emotional freedom technique. There are so many techniques that can be learned, and even that one can be learned online now. A professional, of course, is going to help you a little bit faster, but there's so many more advanced ways um, to do it today than I think we even had a few years ago, and that's wonderful. And really, that is what my whole podcast is about. Every single one is really about some of the techniques to do that. But the first thing that I start with, though, is really the foundation, or the understanding why we have emotions, what are they good for, how to use them. Because if people can use them as a tool, or use them as an understanding of a way to get a point across in a calm, peaceful way, those are techniques themselves. And then besides that, because I think you got to start there. And I have developed, and I do use, and it's actually what I'll offer for free to anybody that would like it. It's a guide
Oh,
on my website, anxietysimplified.net. But it's really, I call them secrets, and they're not secrets in the sense that I think nobody knows it. That nobody uses them. Nobody knows how to use them. And it's really to move you out of fear and move you into what you want more of in your life. But if you're not understanding kind of these basics, that's what I feel like people need to learn first. One of them that I feel like, again, is a secret or a misnomer is people don't seem to understand that to get someplace or a goal or a direction, you have to know what that is. You have to know what you want first. And what I hear pretty continual, I don't want a partner that smokes. I don't want to be overweight. What do you want? And so that seems like one of the first things, and that's what this first page of what I call it, my ACT guide,
the
the
three
three secrets.
secrets to hold it up again. Three
Mhm.
secrets.
That move you out of fear
Oh, wonderful.
or feeling stuck into what you want.
Fantastic.
And so the first thing is, you got to know what you want. You got to know the direction. If you want to go to Portland, Maine, do not go to Tampa, Florida. And that's what I hear. And then people go, I can't do it. I don't know how to. Well, sometimes you got to get a map if you don't know, or put your GPS. Now we got GPS,
Or
but your
just call
G
somebody that knows the directions.
or call somebody to help you. Ask.
Ask. Exact.
That's a big one. So that's why I simplify these things in a way that, if you don't have some foundations, it's really hard to even start the journey of where you want to go.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So finding, knowing first where you want to go, and helping and recognizing when anxiety grows or stress happens, that you have tools. You have EFT, and Joanne can show you how to do the EFT most beneficially, and EFT, emotional freedom technique, and service animals. And I know that you have many other tools that you share on your podcast, Anxiety Simplified, and probably on your website as well. You can get that free gift. And there's something else that you had mentioned that you were going to be sharing too today.
Yeah. I really, really enjoyed listening to your guest, on your Awesome Life podcast. And it really made me think. And I like that. I like something that kind of gets my gears going here. And what it made me think about is what are the things that we've learned as women as we mature that we could actually pass on to women that are younger. And I know you got to experience life, and I'm not going to take anything away from experiencing. That's important. But I think if I wish somebody would have told me these things, and I came up with 10 of them, and I don't need to go through all of them because I want to give it as a gift.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
and it's called 10 things I wish somebody would have told my younger self.
Oh, wow.
And one of them, I'd love to just share two, anyways, and you can see the rest, but they're pretty straightforward and, make sense. But one is find a cheerleader in your life. Find somebody who adores you, a spouse, a friend, a dog, if that's what it is, if you don't have that person. But, one of the reasons I feel like that was so important, I just felt like I had very little support growing up, this big move, and just kind of nobody there, and you're just kind of left going in the wind. And I feel like it stole a lot of my potential. And I feel like when you have somebody that has your back, it just is that little bit of foundation where what you're going to be okay no matter what. And I found that in my second husband, Gary. To have somebody adore you, I just feel like everyone should have that feeling in their life. And I put that as number one, which, I thought that was kind of interesting of all the things I do, but that really came to me actually in the middle of the night. I had to get up. I had to write this down because it's like, yeah.
Oh, yes.
I kept going. But number two was about making emotions your secret power. And I think we're women, that is more of the side of the brain that we do have, more kind of amplified ways of being. And I don't think we use it a lot of times as our power. It really is. It's kind of been squashed and, oh, you're weak, or, told some things that I believe are totally not true. And when you know how to use them instead of really them kind of using you. But I used fear, because anxiety or worry kind of is my focus, because, anxiety is the number one mental health disorder. And we're looking at 33 to 50% of our population now because of COVID, and they're calling it a shadow pandemic. Yeah. So it's really one of the reasons why I started my podcast. I want free information. I just want to get stuff out there right now so people can
definitely put that up on the description. And thank you so much. That is so generous, and it's so important. Yeah. It really is. Whether they're ready for it today or they're ready for it in 10 years, it does make a difference. So thank you so much for that. And how can people get in touch with you?
Sure. My website is probably the easiest way. It's anxietysimplified.net. There's a place right there. You can actually download that free 3 secrets that can guide you right there. And I love to talk with people and even just give them recommendations if that's all they're looking for, or some way. I just want to encourage people to ask and reach out.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Joanne. We are coming to an end here, but I just want to really appreciate all of the good that you are doing in the world. And this is what we need most, is to find the ways to reduce that stress. So thank you so much for joining me today on Awesome Podcast, Awesome Life Podcast. And
thank you, Karen.
It's so wonderful. We'll see you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.